it kind of sounds to me, the way you're describing it, that you have a lot of, like, heavies or DPS or stuff like that, but there's not much for support classes. I know that you've been playing a game recently.
Yes.
That's been in a universe you are very, very aware of. Warhammer.
I'm very aware of the Warhammer universe. Yes.
Yes.
I think I got into Warhammer freshman or sophomore year of high school.
Oh, and
So
you're
it's
old
been
now, so
it's been since like 2002 or 3. I've been into Warhammer since this was the codex that we used for Chaos Space Marines. This is circa 2002. It's this one.
2002, so that's when it started. And I have seen you play the actual, like, war game before. I've seen you play on the big table.
I don't really play much on the table anymore, but I do have an extensive array of miniatures still and other things. So
you were very excited for I would say you've probably been excited for a while yet to know that Space Marine 2 was going to be coming out.
I definitely, when I saw it announced, I was excited because they did the 20th anniversary of Space Marine 1, and they put that together, and then I think it wasn't long after that they're like, hey, by the way, Saber Interactive is making Space Marine 2. And I was like, shit, it's been since it came out in 2011, the original one, which was unfortunate for it because it came out around the same time Skyrim did.
Bad timing.
And one of the things with the original one is, third-person shooter, killing orcs, all that stuff. Fine. But the original glory kill mechanic that most people know about from Doom actually was from the first Space Marine game. Killing enemies restores a little bit of health or armor. Yeah. Whichever it was.
Yeah.
And then Doom took it and made it really popular. So
I think the thing is that Doom had it as such an integral mechanic to the game that people associated with it. And also maybe just because Space Marine kind of fell under the radar when it came out, like you said, because of Skyrim. I played a little bit of it, but frankly, compared to what I played of Skyrim, it's no contest. It's no contest. But at any rate, so we're well past that.
Yeah.
And now Space Marine 2 has released to mostly acclaim.
I'm pretty sure all the reviews have been pretty solid for it for the most part.
Pretty positive, yeah.
And they've have over 2 million people who have bought it and played it, which is great. Even if I think even if the reviews were bad, in my personal opinion, I would have not cared. I would have been playing.
No, you would have still gotten it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I enjoyed the story of the first one. It was very, very much a 40k story that was interesting, and they left it on a cliffhanger. And this Space Marine 2 does a great job of continuing where the first one left off.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got the cliffhanger, and then 100 years later, because Space Marines live for a long time, and these are the events that happen afterwards. So you're skipping 100 years, and then stuff happens. But it's a continuation of Titus's story from the first one, and it has to do with events in the first one, so it's a really decent sequel.
What are the mechanics of this compared to the first one? Since you've played to the you mentioned glory kills in the first one, is that back?
Yeah, they're back. They're executions. The gameplay is very similar. They definitely took from the first one and went, yeah, we can basically just do more of this. This style of game will work fine. They've made it a little less clunky, which is great because tank controls from 2011 weren't that great.
No.
But they're essentially saying that it's over-the-shoulder third-person combat for the most part. You have left-click bound to shooting, right-click bound to melee, and then you can zoom in with scopes if your weapon has a scope to do, FPS, essentially. Okay. Although you do move slowly while using a scope.
Right. You're playing mouse
or
and
aiming
keyboard,
down sights. I am playing mouse and
Okay.
keyboard.
Oh, all right. Okay. When you said left click, right click, I was like, oh, you're not talking triggers, so we're not on a pad. All right.
I think I might have played the original game originally on a controller, but I don't remember.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I played it when it was on Xbox, so it would have been, it would have been on a controller. I don't know if you noticed this, just side note for a second, is that when it's a shooter, like a first-person shooter, I do find it much easier to use mouse and keyboard than a controller.
I think
Mostly
it gives
'cause of
you,
aiming.
it gives you better control of that aiming, I think. Unless you're really used to a controller and have a really responsive controller, so.
Right. Anytime that I have to, like, be moving and doing things at the same time, especially, I find that there's a lot of games that I've played where, they'll ask me to, like, interact with items and then pick them up or something as I'm aiming, and I find that it's just way easier to do that with keyboards and a mouse, because I can do the two things at the same time, moving and interacting. But then also, for first-person shooters, you have much better control over the reticle than you do with a controller.
So the campaign for Space Marine 2, I'm sure anyone who's watching this has probably seen other videos on it, but the campaign, taking your time, can take about maybe 10 to 12 hours, I would say. I beat it in about 12. I take my time and look through every nook and cranny I can find.
Yeah, you're a completionist, kind of. Not like 100% completionist, but you like to be thorough.
Fairly. I like to be thorough. It's the problem with CRPGs is I just want to explore every nook and cranny, and then I never get
You never get
done.
around to it, yeah.
This one, the game, so it's a relatively short campaign, which is fine because it means that I have completed the campaign, and I'm not going to sit there and go, I've never completed this game. It's not a 400-hour storyline. It is a maybe 15 hours tops.
Got it.
If you're bad. It is pretty forgiving, and there are a couple decent boss fights, but the campaign is only 6 missions, currently.
Oh, wow, that is short by comparison. Yeah, because usually, like, I think to, like, a shooter campaign of, like, Halo, that's usually, like, 10 episodes. You know, that's kind of like...
There's 6, they're maybe about an hour and a half each, tops, possibly.
Oh, okay.
There's bits in between missions where you're back on the battle barge and talking and getting some cinematics. You can upgrade. You can swap out your weaponry, for instance. Occasionally, you can change some of that stuff. But on top of the missions that are just the main campaign, they have an operations mode, and this one is closer to, say, Helldivers 2.
Sure.
It's currently, again, they only have 6 operations. There's another one coming out this month, and they plan on releasing more of these down the line as well. So, front load, the game doesn't have as much content in it as I would like, but at least it is replayable content. There is also PvP with like 3 different types of PvP and several maps. Hopefully that also expands and improves.
Sure.
But the operations are... either solo or up to 3 players, so you and 2 friends or 2 randoms or 2 bots can play. Even if you're playing solo, you will get 2 bot companions.
Oh, okay. Because it's built for a 3-man team, basically.
Yeah, so it's a 3-man squad, but these are, the operations basically are the B-plot in this.
Mm-hmm.
So where your campaign is Titus and his 2 guys going around doing their things, he has sent off other squads to do other things that need to be done. So like your first operation is blowing up an oil field to stem the tide of Tyranids, because that'll work.
Mm-hmm.
And so the operation, you play through that. And what it does is you have the communications, when you're going through the mission, you'll have like the communications voice acting with that squad. And making sure they're doing that thing to help you out, essentially. And then, as you're playing the operation, you'll get those voice barks from the other side of it, too. Which is nice narrative continuity, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But the operations are fun because you can pick one of the... I think there's 6 classes right now of Space Marine to play. So you can be a Tactical Marine or a Devastator who's a heavy weapons. Tactical is just kind of an all-rounder. You can be a Sniper, you can be Assault Marine with the jetpack.
Okay.
Bunch of different kinds of Marines to play. So they have different armor, different special abilities. But in operations mode, you can select your loadout. So each Marine has a bunch of different weapons they can choose from. Not all of them have the same weapons they can choose from. But then you also get the ability to level up, unlock new cosmetic armor pieces, change all the colors of your armor, decorate it however you want, and you can upgrade and unlock new weapons. And this is really fun to me because using a weapon gives a weapon experience, and once you master it, it gets a perk point.
Okay.
So you can kind of customize how your specific weapons function.
Is there any PvP in the game? Like player versus
I did say that. There are 3 PvP modes. They are 5v5.
Yeah.
I think I would like to see that expanded with bigger maps and maybe 10v10 or 20v20 even.
I thought you had said that, but then I was like, you mentioned perk points for individual weapons, so I guess I was just trying to figure out how that balances when it ends up being a PvP.
I don't think those count for PvP. Those are just an operations mode.
Okay.
So PvP, you get to level your different classes up as well, and you can unlock more weapons to use that are more powerful. So the higher level in PvP a class that you're using is, you do kind of get an edge, which their matchmaking needs some work, because having people level 25, level 1s is kind of not fair.
Right. Understandable. Okay, so at least that makes me feel a little bit better. Most of the upgrades, though, are they mostly cosmetic upgrades?
Most of the armor ones, yeah. All the armor upgrades are just purely cosmetic. There's no, like, making your armor actually function better.
Got it. I guess I'm just trying to, like, conceptualize it in comparison to something I'm familiar with, like a Helldivers 2. Like, because that has upgrades that you go through where you're leveling up and you're getting access to more stuff, but then a lot of it is cosmetic. It's different armor looks and flags and banners.
So if you're equating it to Helldivers, then the cosmetic stuff for, like, the capes and stuff is similar to the way you can do your armor, but the weapons, how you can get new weapons in that, you can do that similarly in Space Marine.
Okay.
But you can also just get perks that are just passive abilities, passively increase different parts of the weapons or how you use them.
Sure.
And then each class has its own perk tree as well. That's not the weapons, it's just, these are all abilities that affect your class, and I think they're all passive, but some of them affect your entire squad, and some just affect you. It's pretty neat. A couple of them I've seen are not very useful to me, at least without using the weapon they're designed for.
Okay, so this sounds a little bit like how you would do loadouts in Helldivers 2, I guess, because there are some things that you equip that are squad-specific upgrades, and then a lot of it is just for you. When it comes to, like, the operations, you're not picking, like, a class as much as you are just picking your loadout?
You're picking the class and the loadout.
Oh, class and loadout. Okay.
Yep.
So the class is more than just what you're equipped with.
Yeah, so it's your armor, how that looks, which is just cosmetic, but you have different armors. It's the ability they use. They have a main class ability. It's like the Tactical Marine gets a scan that will highlight all the enemies in the area. Okay. And then you can deal more damage to the highlighted enemies.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah,
so
like
that's
a hollow
nice.
sight bonus or something, or trace bonus or something. Yeah.
And so, if I'm playing a Tactical Marine, I get that as my ability, and then I get the choice of a bunch of different main weapons, and then a pistol and a close combat weapon.
Got it. Okay. Perfect.
So, I get to pick my class, and then I pick my loadout, and fight that way. No two players can be the same class in an operation.
Oh, okay.
So you can't just triple down on something.
Right. Okay.
Even though I think that'd be really fun for certain things.
I would think so. I mean, it'd be like if you had, like, a full squad in, like, a Helldivers where everybody was just, like, an explosives expert, which you could just do if you want to.
Excuse me, I'd like to run this as 3 heavies, please. One of us with a... Three of us with just heavy bolters? Yeah.
It's just all fullbacks. Let's just...
Yeah. I am wondering, they are supposed to be adding a new class at some point, too, for operations, and I'm wondering what it is, because I haven't really said what it is. And my 2 thoughts on this are, either... Well, I guess there's 3, but... there's really two that I would want. Is either a tech marine who is like would probably be closer to like an engineer of some kind.
Okay.
If you're familiar, they usually have a big servo arm that can do like they can lift tanks with their fucking servo arm. They're insane.
Perfect. Nice.
So like as a tech marine, you get like probably some more high tech weapons and engineering and armor bonuses and stuff, I would assume.
Sure.
The other one would be an apothecary, which is, a medic.
Oh, so right now there really isn't like that kind of a class in the game.
Yeah, there's neither.
Yeah.
Of those. But an apothecary would be fun because healing your allies can be helpful.
Yes.
Or at least finding ways to do that. But they are also just as capable in combat as the rest of the Marines.
Okay. I imagine that might be tweaked in the game just to make it more of a support class than a...
Probably not.
No.
That would be weird.
That would be the reason why they don't want everybody to be the same class, because then you just have 3 apothecaries that are just going to run roughshod and also...
They could also be like, hey, here's a chaplain, but I don't know how chaplains would be in combat or what they would do, but it would be a support class, I would assume, at that point.
Right.
They could also add, like, librarians, but then they would have to actually entirely add psychic powers for, like, a class to use.
Right.
And that doesn't sound like something they'd enjoy doing.
It kind of sounds to me, the way you're describing it, that you have a lot of, like, heavies or DPS or stuff like that, but there's not much for support classes right now.
Right. I mean, you can help support each other, like Tactical Marine can highlight the enemies. Devastator, the heavy, can, like, deploy a force shield, and if your allies are behind that, they also get that bonus, because it's just in front of you. The Bulwark gets a sword and shield. They're your tank, essentially, but they also have a banner they can place down that, like, helps replenish armor and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. There's some synergies throughout it that are great. And some of the other ones, like the Assault Marine, doesn't really have a lot of synergy bonus for helping the team in the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But they are also the melee focused, aside from the guy with the sword and shield. He's also melee focused, but the Assault is like hit and run melee focus. Bulwark gets a sword and a shield and a pistol. Mm-hmm. Assault gets a jump pack and several different melee weapons and just a pistol. But their melee weapons are like a thunder hammer, which you can just cleave the shit out of everything with.
Perfect.
And do power attacks, or a power fist, which is also punch things brutally hard, or a chainsword, which is also good at cleaving or doing faster damage. So
your operations are pretty much, you can do those endlessly.
Yeah, they're repeatable. You can up the difficulty. Similar to Helldivers, the higher your difficulty, the better like rewards you get, and then you get like the armory tokens, which will help you unlock higher tiers of weapons as well.
Got it. And do you then upgrade with like higher tiers of operations that you go on that you can use that in, so that you get better equipment? Sort of like the difficulty rating in Helldivers too, where you Yep. So it's more confusing. So what would you, besides the class part, what would you like to see them add into Space Marine 2 in the future? What features would you like to see included that you didn't get from the experience of playing for 70 plus hours?
I'd want more operations, for instance. I know they're adding more. They're also apparently going to be adding some kind of endless or wave mode, which should be fun.
Like a horde mode, maybe? Like
I
that
think
kind of thing?
maybe, yeah.
Oh.
I know they're also going to be adding new enemies at some point as well, because currently the two enemies you have are Tyranids, which are bugs, and Chaos, which is normal. Orcs are not in this one. My prediction is they're adding Necron, which are the robots. But I don't want them to add Necron simply because then it's too close to Helldivers. Because Helldivers has the bugs and the robots.
Real quick, though, is that, like, a Helldivers 2 thing is that I love that those are, like, the two things that you fight. Because when I was playing it, it's like, you always go to the bugs, and then you feel like you're wiping them out, and they're coming at you. And the second you do the first mission with the robots, you're like, oh shit. You're running away because everybody.
They're very different.
Yes, they're just throwing mortar cannons at you like nonstop, and it's like, oh no.
So the Necrons would be similar to the automatons in Helldivers. Necrons are soulless robots, like immortal soulless robots.
Perfect. Love those.
Most of them. But they also can come back from getting killed sometimes. So, like, I could see them adding Necrons, because, spoiler for the campaign for anyone who doesn't want to listen, click off now. When you're going down into one of the planets you're on, you go down into, like, deeper into the mines and stuff and start seeing, like, these ruins on this burial world. And they're all, like, Necron ruins. They don't say it or anything like that, but all the stuff there is very much Necron.
Yeah.
Because if you're familiar, it's got the same patterns, same little circuitry-looking parts on them as Necron do. So I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I hope Necron are coming up then, because that'd be great. But they would be a very different enemy than the Tyranid. So I'm hoping they expand that. Oh, one of the things I really want them to do is twofold. I want them to let you play operations as the Chaos Marines, because they do have models for them in there, because PvP is Chaos versus Loyal Space Marine, because otherwise it would just be Space Marine versus Space Marine, which you could do. You could just call it sparring or something like that.
Sure.
War games. But right now, there's no real customization for Chaos Marines aside from armor colors.
Sure.
Each of the classes only has a specific way they look. You can change all the colors on their armor and stuff, but you can't change how their armor looks.
Yeah. Okay.
Or their weapons. So cosmetics for Chaos would be amazing. The first game had it. You could customize it like crazy.
Yeah.
I hope they add that, because as much as I like how they look, I would like to be able to swap out the armors.
So a few things that they could put into it, but the basic mechanics and gameplay probably doesn't need to be improved or
probably
changed.
Not.
No, that'll work.
It's pretty solid.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fun. If you like it, if you like a game that's not entirely brainless hack and slash, because you do have to pay attention.
Sure.
And can sometimes be rather difficult when you have like multiple zone thropes in there and have to figure out how to kill them.
Sure.
That would be great. Oh, the other thing is finding a way for the Assault Marine to actually kill zone thropes, because currently the only way to kill them is ranged.
Oh, okay.
You can't attack them with melee while they're in the air.
Are zoanthropes like a bird kind of character?
No, they float. They kind of levitate up there.
Oh, they're a floof.
They're floof. They are a pain in the ass. They are siege machines, essentially.
They're a pain in the floof. Is what they are. Okay. Well, that's good. I know that there's been a lot of talk about Space Marine 2. I think people were just really excited about it coming out after all these many, many years. And
14 years later, essentially.
14 years later. And so they finally did it, folks. They finally came out with it. And it seems to have worked out pretty well. But great. So now that you're 70 hours in, you're done playing, right? You're not going to put any more time in?
I'm putting way more hours in. I'm playing it this weekend with a friend.
Here's the question, though, that I have for you, because I think that this is important, because, like, I'm not really in Warhammer. I don't really know much about it or anything. How much information about the world would you really require in order to, get what's going on in Space Marine 2?
You wouldn't really need much information to understand just, like, what's going on in the game. You might not understand all the nuanced information, but you could get the story pretty well. If you hadn't played the first one, you'd be missing out on some of the subtext in there from events in the first one. Like, oh, why is Captain Titus a lieutenant now? Why was he in the Death Watch? All these other things. Why are they talking about him conspiratorially and stuff like that? So you'd miss out on some of that, but you don't really need all the information, like, to at least enjoy the game. They do a better job than Batman v Superman about explaining things, so also the cinematic quality of the game is pretty great. It looks gorgeous. The set pieces are great. The world building they did, like how things are, how the guards act, how the rubble and everything is gorgeous.
So yeah, so that's Space Marine 2. Kinda.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. We've heard about that. And I guess I would ask if anyone else out there has played Space Marine 2, what you thought about it. You can tell us in the comments below. And Alex will fight you.
Tell me why you think Leandros sucks.
The gauntlet's been thrown down, folks.
Also, side note, if you have played Space Marine 1 and you got into the first part of Space Marine 2 when you met the chaplain, comment down below if you also, like me, went, I bet I know who this is right at the first time you met the fucker. And if you didn't play the first one, you wouldn't know until the end.
It was Agatha all along.
It was Agatha all along.
Yep.
I'm not going to spoil this one. You can do it in the comments. If you don't want to get spoiled, don't read the comments.
A lot of fun things that you guys can argue about when it comes to Warhammer. I know that people love to do that anyway, so let's just do that in the comments instead of the video.